Okay, today we're going to start on Hayam and Beis. It's about 12 lines from the bottom. Kufa Mishma. We thank Hashem. They're able to enter every day. It's supposed to be learning. Learning the Nishma of the Basbar in Yemen. It's almost the Yarta, right? The Yarta is not Kislev, it's Davis. And sons have been seeing. You probably stop saying Kaddish. Well, there's no Kaddish. It's only a month of Kaddish, right? And also, we're fortunate for Abin David Ben Sarah. That's very able. Yeah, Chaim Ben Sarah. Okay. So the Gemara says like this: Gufa. Let's return to examine something that we mentioned in passing. Summer Shmuel says, Beisha Dano Dineim Din. Two people that judged, that made a judgment, like as if they're a bezdin, two people as the judges instead of three. It's considered a good judgment. But they considered a chutzpah, audacious. Yeah, we gave a pshat, but Rashi's pshat is because the Chazal tell us that you need three. They're not doing a three. We gave a pshat that they don't care about what the people think of them. Because normally when you go to Bezdin, you don't know if there's one person that was on your side. So when you walk out, you don't have to feel bad, But you're not allowed to say, "I really wanted to make you." I wanted to make you potter, but everyone else, you're not allowed to say that. But here, if there's two people, obviously we know there's nothing. There's no. Obviously, you were against him. They don't. When you don't care about what someone thinks of you, that's called chatzah. That's a pshat. That's an interpretation. The simple pshat is what Rashi says, that they're not doing what I'll say, that you need the best in of three. Right? If they're against, but nevertheless, it's still a judgment. Still, it's like a lechatchila and b'diavad. And it's on yachid. Let's see.
That these two judges find someone guilty doesn't. I think it doesn't mean that both of them found that person guilty. It could have been that one kind of the person. No. It's one of them thought that he was like really guilty. The other one thought he wasn't, but then he kind of like produced the other one.
Yeah, okay. Well, the thought process as they go through it doesn't matter. It's what happens at the end. What do they decide at the end?
But at the end,
what matters is what happens at the end. It could have said, well, originally I thought, and all of that originally I thought doesn't matter.
But the person being accused doesn't know. The person that's being accused doesn't know.
Yeah, but all of that doesn't matter.
The people, the one who said you're bad.
You need both of them. You're going to need both of them. Anyway, whatever. Yosef Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman was sitting with Kamal Ashmaita and he was saying this halacha. Esvi Rav Nachman. Rav is a student of Rav Nachman. He asked Rav Nachman. It says like this. The Mishnah later on. It says, Afilu Shnayim Mizakin Shnayim Mechayben Bechrem Eini Yedeya Yisifa Dayanam. Very interesting halacha. The Mishnah later on says that it's better to have an argument in the Bezdin than to have one of the people say, I don't know what the halacha is. So if you have three judges, two of them say he's chayav. One of them says, I don't know. See, if one says chayav, one says pater, and the other judge says, I don't know. So of course, we're gonna need to get another judge because we don't know how to decide this. But let's say two say chayav.
You say chayav, one says pater, or two say chayav and one says I don't know.
If two says chayav and one says pater, then the halacha is chayav. Right. If two say, not by capital punishment. If two say pater and one says chayav, then halacha said it's going to be pater, right? But what happens if two say pater, two say chayav, and then there's the third judge says I don't know. So the halacha is that we need another judge. It's as if he's just removed himself from the case.
Oh, okay.
It's like he doesn't count.
mention an example, they just get another,
Another guy.
another judge.
They're going to need to get another judge. You see further. Now, if Shmuel is correct, that you can do that, a judgment of two judges is considered an acceptable judgment. So, so what? Why do you need another judge? Two people that judge is a good judgment. I mean, it's not the best, but in our situation, it will work. The Gemara is thinking.
An example, I think you said one judge moved himself because he didn't want to
Yeah.
argue with.
There's some legal
yeah.
civil issue. Yeah, we had this case. So the Gemara is asking that according to Shmuel, you don't need to add judges. This should be good enough. Right? So Shani Hasan the Mikara daita the tlasa yasivi. According in the case of Shmuel, when they sat down, they knew they only had two judges. Problem is when the case of this Mishnah, when they sat down, they thought they had three judges. And it turned out that they only had two judges. That's worse. Yeah, I don't. Is there a note on there why it's worse? Because what's the difference? What they thought when they were sitting down?
Maybe from the person who's being need them.
They only wanted.
I think number 28.
Since the judges, in order to avoid being in an insolent court, initially convene the court of three to try the case must be completed by a court of three. Therefore, if one of the three cannot reach a decision, additional judges must be added to round out the court.
Because they started as
I thought it was going to be because the litigants were sitting down. What Moshe was saying, litigants are sitting down expecting a case to be judged by three. Now you're left with a case that's judged by two. That's not fair to the litigants.
That's
That's what he says. That's not fair to the litigants.
in other words,
It's different.
that he agreed to a two-person judge.
No,
he agreed to it too.
Bryce teaches that a two-man education is not proper of strict law. You're reading something else. You're reading something else. Yeah, that's
At the
something else.
end,
That's something else. That's where we're not holding there yet. You're ahead.
Yeah,
You're
that
ahead.
was upside down.
Okay. Eisvei, the Gemara has a question. Eisvei, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel has a question. Hadin b'shleisha. When it comes to judgment, if it's actual judgment, then you need three judges. Upshara, but if you're doing compromise, that's what you're reading this. Then it's bishnayim. Then you only need two judges. Compromise. Why two? Maybe one. It's compromise. Why two? Now it says v'yafe kayach pshara mikayach hadin. And pshara is even better than din. Shnayim shadanu. If two people did a judgment, bali din yichelim lachsebem, they can retract. The people can say that we don't want this to continue with this case. Shnayim shasab pshara. But if two people did a compromise, ein bali din yichelim lachsebem, they can't retract. It's strange, no? How do you retract out of a judgment? Now, pshara is stronger. And what we're saying now is that two people that did a judgment.
There's a difference between someone telling you what to need versus you accept feel already what you need. You now went and said, I'm accepting what the two say. In other words, the pshara of your acceptance.
Yeah, so by Shnaim Shadanu, I accepted what they're going to judge, right?
No, but Shnaim Shabasu pshara. So if they, in other words, the but is not the base thing telling you what the halacha is. You agree to the compromise.
So Shnaim Shasab Pshara is like you're accepting an arbitration agreement.
But when it's two judges, say
Shnaim Shadanu, you're expecting a halacha. But what happened at the beginning when you showed up? Didn't you realize that you don't accept that you don't have to make a kinyan? Okay. Anyway,
I read that the difference is that with the din, it's a din, but you may not be happy with it, and you may talk about how unhappy with it. But the pshara is called emet lamito, because you accept it and you're happy with it because you agreed to it.
so when it says Bali din yichelim lachsabem, that means that they can retract and say that I don't accept this judgment, and we're gonna have to go to a different court.
Yeah, but they can't.
But if there were two judges, then they can.
If it's not if it's not a proper based in.
Right. So two judges, they're allowed to say we don't accept this judgment. And if there's two judges by a pshara, by a compromise, then they can't say that. They have to accept it as two. Whatever the case is, we're seeing Kasha and Shmuel. Shmuel said two judges is considered a good judgment. They weren't supposed to do it, but it's still considered a good judgment. And here we're seeing that when there's two judges, they can just walk away and say, I'm not accepting that case, right? I'm not accepting that judgment.
It's different from like
They have to sign.
that they accept
Yeah.
everything.
Seems
Different.
Yeah, unless we're not saying that you can walk out of a three judges thing. We're saying you can walk out of a two judges. Maybe it's not. So how are we going to answer this? Maybe we can say that statement, this statement that we just made, that you can walk out of a two judges judgment and say, I'm not accepting that. We're on top of Daf Av now. Maybe we can say that everyone argues on Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. You're asking a kasha on Shmuel from Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Well, I have a teretz. No one holds of Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Problem is, Vamar excuse me, Rabavo said, Rabavo says that everyone agrees. The Rabbanan agree with Reb Shimon ben Gamliel that if two people make a judgment, it's not considered a good judgment. So basically, we have a kasha on Shmuel from Rabavo. Rabavo says that everyone agrees that it's not a good judgment. And here you're saying that it is a good judgment. Here you're saying that Shmuel would say that is a good judgment. The Gemara says, whoa, you're asking from Rabavo on Shmuel, Gavra Karamis. How do you have a kasha from one person on another person? It's not a kasha. They argue, right? That's a teretz. They argue, right? Okay. Gemara says, okay, that's where we leave off. That we could say that it's a machlekes between the Rabbanan and Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. We didn't see the Rabbanan's opinion, but we saw that it's Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Probably the Rabbanan argue, and the Rabavo says that no one's argues about this. That's only Rabavo's opinion. But Shmuel says, thank you. Shmuel says that they do argue. Yeah. Okay. Gufa. Let's go back to analyze what Rabavo said. It's interesting when we quote it now, they add in a word. Gufa. Amar Rabavo, Shnaim Shedanu Dinim Mamanis, L'Divri Akal Ein Dinei Din. If two people judged Dinim Mamanis, everyone agrees that it's not a good judgment. You need to have three judges. Esfi Rababa asked Rabavo the following question. Donas Adin, if a judge judges a judgment, Zika Sachayev, he made a mistake. He made innocent the one that's guilty. And he condemned the one that's innocent. Timya Satar, he made impure what was pure. He made impure what was pure. Tier Asatame, he made pure what was impure. So Masha Asa Psak is already done. Mashalim Mibesai. But he has to pay for it. Now, if it wouldn't be a judgment at all, so we would say, okay, just put everything back in its place. Tell the person that paid to give the money, tell the person that received the money to give the money back. Tell the person that you should take it back, and there's no judgment. And we're not saying that. We're saying the judgment is already done, but you judge because you made a mistake. You have to pay. You have to make up for the mistake that you made, and you have to pay the litigant that lost the money.
Who says
But
the
that means that
judges
it's a judgment.
Who says the judges are incorrect? Do they appeal it, or do the people?
Yeah, the people come up and say, "Look, you made a mistake." They appeal the case.
Do other judges?
Maybe. The Gemara says, over here, the reason why it's a good judgment is because the people accepted that they're going to accept they're going to accept one judge. Here, it's talking about one judge, not even two judges. Yeah, Taisus mentioned before when it says two people that judge, it's not a good judgment. The same. Thank you. Same thing would apply if one person judged. I'm sorry. When in Shmuel's case, the same thing would apply to a yachid, to a chad. This just mentions that. Okay, now, so here we're dealing with one person that judged, and we're saying that it's considered a valid judgment. And the reason why it's a valid judgment, the Gemara answers, is because the litigants accepted on himself that whatever he says. They accepted whatever he says, and why does he have to pay if he made a mistake? They accepted. The reason is because they told him, we're accepting the judgment that you'll give us according to the Torah. And because he made an obvious mistake, so then it's not according to the Torah.
This is the Shema.
What does that mean?
I'm saying it's general side.
That he should pay it up. Well, it's actually a monetary law.
So I'm saying so why, but if they accept it, something
they said the din Torah means that we're not accepting for you to come along and give us your beichsvaras, your what you think is going to be nice and whatever. We want you to tell us according to what it says in Shulchan Aruch.
Accept it.
So now he made a mistake, and so are you asking? So if it was din Torah, so then why is it a din?
Right.
Why is the name din? One second. The Gemara is going to ask you a question. Amar Rav Safar Rababa. What mistake did he make? What was the mistake? Mishnah. You see that? Yeah. The Gemara and Rav Moshe have the same following question. And Rav Safra. If we say that he made a mistake in something that's very obvious, that it's a clear Mishnah that says this. By the way, I think it would apply also, and if it was a clear Gemara that said this, back in the Gemara, it was a clear Mishnah. But for us, even a clear Gemara would be the same. But Amar Rab Sheshes, Amar Rab Ami, or Ravasi, Tabid Bar Mishnah Chayzer. If you make such an obvious mistake, it's not even considered a judgment at all. So you go back. Why should he have to pay? The judge have to pay? There's no judgment. Ella the Tab Shikaladas must be that he made a mistake in Shikaladas, in a way how he understands something. How do they translate Shikaladas in the translation? Deliberation.
It says weighing of opinion.
Weighing of opinion. Okay, deliberation. That's good. What's the case of weighing opinion or deliberation? Amar of Papa, or Papa explains going trey tanaya trey amaray de pligi adadi. Talking about that there's a machlokes, either between Tanoim or Amoraim. Interesting that the Rav Papa throws that in. Amorai. Rav Papa is much later. And it could have been like Rav and Shmuel would be Amorai, and that's several generations earlier than Rav Papa. We don't have who the halacha is, who the halacha is like. We have no statement that tells us. However, the the sugya, because the flow seems to be leaning towards one side. But this judge went and he passed him like the other side. That means that he didn't weigh it out properly. Now, it's very interesting because we had to find something here that it would still be a judgment, but it's still bad enough that the judge has to pay for it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Who's saying this? Since we don't have an appeal, who's saying this was a bad judgment?
They went to another court, probably.
But you're not allowed to do that, are you?
I don't know. Can you appeal a case?
I have to see the question. How many times did they try the same case?
They said, how many times can you try the same case? He'll ask. So Moshe says, until the guy's happy. Like the kids, they say, can I have cake? They say, no. They say, but can I have cake? No, how many times until you say yes? I'm going to ask.
In your basin, was there an appeal that someone wanted?
You have to usually come with a new proof.
We've had every case usually ends up with one person upset saying that this Besdin is no good, and they go to another Besdin and they find a dayan that's writing letters and stuff to say that what we did was no good. Every case was like that. Well, actually, not every case, but every case had one side that wasn't having. Like someone told me, they said when you sit on a din Torah, you either make one enemy or two enemies. There's no.
Rabbi Schoen is insistent that there's no appeal.
Okay, so they must have opened up a Mishnah, and they see, like, they open up a Gemara, and they say, like, what did you do? And the person asked, I guess the dayan admits. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so now, it's interesting. He has to pay because the Sugin, the Alma, seems to be heading in the other direction. However, it's still considered a case, it's still considered a judgment, because he wasn't against the halacha. There was no halacha here that would say that the way he passed in was wrong. But it's enough wrong that he has to pay for it. But it's not enough wrong that you retract the whole case. The Gemara says, let's say that this machlekes that we had before between Shmuel and Rabavo, can you use one judge? Can you use two judges, or do you need three judges? Let's say that goes back earlier to machlekes Tanaim. It says bitzua, which is another word for pshara, compromise, bishleisha. That needs three judges, divrei Reb Meir. And the Chachamim say no, pshara. If you're doing compromise, then that's biyachid. You could do just with one person can do compromise. So Savrua, we're thinking to explain L'kuli alma makshin pshara ladin, that we're doing a comparison here between pshara, compromise, with judgment. My lab bakamifligan. There's a simple machlekes. Mar Sava Reb Meir would hold din b'shleisha, that regular judgment requires three. That's Rabavo as well. And therefore, pshara is also b'shleisha. In Mar Savar, the Chachamim hold din b'shnayim, that you can do judgment with two. And therefore, pshara you can also do with two. And therefore, that's the opinion of Shmuel. So Shmuel would follow the Chachamim, and Rabava would follow Reb Meir. The Gemara says, like, no. Kuli alma din b'shleisha, everyone holds when it comes to actual judgment, you need three judges. Over here, the machlekes is different. Mar Savar makshinim pshara ladin. Do we say that compromise is just like judgment? Other opinion says that we don't compare, but that we don't compare pshar ladin, but everyone holds, according to this, that regular judgment requires three judges. Where it says, let's say that there's really three opinions when it comes to pshara, because the Mar Savar, Reb Meir said that when it comes to pshara, it comes to compromise, you need shleisha. Mar Savar B'Shnayim. We had an opinion before on the last Amud where Reb Shimon ben Gamliel said that you can do compromise with 2 judges. Remember Reb Shimon ben Gamliel? That's how we started today. Mar Savar and the Chum say b'yachid, they only need 1 judge. Amar Rav Acha Breder Avika V'Temer Rav Yemer Bar Shalmei. Mandamar Trey, the one that says 2 judges, which is Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, Afilu Chad Nami. He really holds that you only need 1 judge as well. Why the Kamar Trey? So why do you say 2? Because we want there to be witnesses to what the decision was. Yeah. Taisvis Bitsua. Naftali, you have to see this. Taisvis Bitsua says that even if we're going to compare Pshara to Din, but Din, you only need a majority. But Pshara, you need unanimous. Everyone needs to decide when it comes to Pshara. We can't have a Pshara with 2 against 1. Isn't that interesting?
Wow. That is actually Lo Shalech.
V'das echad. Yeah. You see that, Taisvis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which Tosos is that?
Taisvis Bitsua.
So become
Bitsua Begimel.
Bitsua. Okay, thank you.
So the rabbis would do what? Yeah, when it comes to compromise. Oh, yeah, that you wait for the next page. Wait for the next page. There was a famous Din Torah amongst shluchim. It involved a Chabad house in California, and they had 5 judges, and it took place in Florida. They're all the big rabbanim here. Rabbi Ashkenazi from Kfar Chabad, Rabbi from Belgium, I forgot his name, Rabbi Lieberman from Belgium. You know, it's like big rabbi, chief rabbi type, stuff. They were all here sitting in the yeshiva with Rabbi Shapiro, and forget who else, maybe Rabbi Yoslavsky. It was big rabbanim. Anyway, they were going to deliberate on the case. 3 of the judges separated and paskined without the other 2. It was a huge deal. It was huge. They're writing things and back. Were they allowed to do that? Were they not allowed to do that? It was, yeah.
They still don't talk to each other.
It was because the other 2 disagreed?
I don't know. I wasn't in the inn of the case, but I just remember that was it was a lot of tummeling, and you had to know the sugyas well. These guys, these rabbis were, they knew what they were doing, of course. But
Like out of the 5,
yeah, I'm saying because if it would be pshara, it needs to be unanimous, unless maybe only 3 needs to be unanimous. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what Taisus would say if you had more than that. Okay. We'll be holding. Amar Ravashi. Ravashi says, Shema Mina, obviously, and the way we're saying this is that how many judges do we need for Pshara? It must be Pshara in a Tzricha Kinyan. That we're not doing a Kinyan when it comes to Pshara. Disal Kadaitach Tzricha Kinyan, because if you would have a Kinyan before, maybe after, whatever, if you would have a Kinyan by Pshara, so then Lamanda Mitzricha Tzlasa, why do you need 3? Lamanda Mitzricha Tzlasa. Lamanda Mitzricha, according to the opinion that says that you have a Kinyan, Tlasa Lamali. Why do we need 3? Tiski betray. 2 should be enough. And you just do a Kinyan. Pshara, you see, when you have 3 judges, so they summon a person to court and they paskin, and it's all against his will. But when it's pshara, that means they're saying we're going for an arbitration. So why would you ever need 3? We could flip a coin to decide who's right if you're doing pshara. So you make a kinyan and you say whatever it falls on it. No, you said that before you flip it over. No, you said, oh, you make a kinyan and we decide whatever that's going to be. So if you have a kinyan, why should there be even an issue of 3? It says v'hilchasa pshar tzricha kinyan. The halacha is that you do need a kinyan, even if you're using 3. Even if you're using 3 judges, you have to make a kinyan before. That's what we do. There's a thesis over here about by Mechila. If Mechila in general requires a kinyan. Someone says, you owe me money. Okay, you don't have to pay me. You don't have to pay me back. And then afterwards he says, okay, no, I do want you to pay me back. So he said, but you told me, I don't have to pay you back. He said, well, I didn't make a kinyan when I said that. I changed my mind. What happens then? Usually we hold mechila in a tricha kinyan. You don't need a kinyan to be meichel. Ketan Rabbanan taught in the Brisa kshem shad in b'shleisha, just like judgment requires 3 judges. Kach bitzua b'shleisha, also pshara. Also, when it comes to compromise, you need 3 judges. Nigbar adin. Once the judgment is over, you can't do compromise. This is classic. Right when the guy says, okay, you have to pay. He says, no, why don't we do a pshara? Why don't we split it 50-50? No, too late. Okay, now Sarmash Bankash Simon is complicated. It's probably an acronym, a mnemonic for the sages that we're going to mention. Let's see if we can work it out. So it's like this. This is a piece of Agadata here, and this is that's the beauty of Sanhedrin. Well, one of the beauties of Sanhedrin is you go back and forth between halacha and Agadata and stories. And Rabbi Lazar B'nai Rabbi Yisrael Glili Aimer. It says you're not allowed to do compromise. Once you come to court, the dayanim can't say, let's just get out of here quickly. And instead of going through all the details, you're arguing over $1,000. Well, you just pay 500 and let's just do this. Why waste our time? Or just make it convenient for everyone. You're not allowed to do that. This is the opinion of Rabbi Lazar. For anyone that does compromise, Reza Chayti is sinning. Anyone that praises the judge that does compromise, it's a disgrace. It says regarding this, he blesses the Beitzeya, the compromise. Niyatz Hashem, it's a disgrace to Hashem. Let the judgment pierce the mountain. Judgment is for the judges. Maybe it means for Hashem. For Hashem. Judgment's for Hashem. Moshe also said that the judgment should pierce the mountain. It means you have to force through the law. But Aaron, who wasn't the judge, that's different. He was Ayev Shalom. He chased after peace. Right of Shalom. He loved peace. He chased after peace. Mason Shalom ben Adon Chveri. He would make peace between 2 people. Shnemar Teras Emes Aisa Befiu. Isn't that interesting? Teras Emes. The true Torah was in his mouth. But Avla Le'intzim Sasav. There was no mistakes in his lips. B'shalom u'b'mishar halach, with peace and with straightness he walked. Halachiti, with me. V'rabim heishev mi'avan, and he returned many from sin. Yeah.
So Yosef really doesn't hold of Aaron.
No, he holds of him, but not as a. He's saying Aaron is not a judge. Moshe was the judge. Yeah.
No,
No.
talking about B'tzeya. That wasn't about the judges.
I think it means the judge. Kolabitzeya. Taisvis over here, in Nigmar Hadin, of Naphtali, he says on the top of the page when it says once the case is over, then you're not allowed to do compromise. He says even if they didn't actually complete the case, they just saw which way it's going. However, he says that if there would be a case where one of them would have to swear, that would be acceptable to then switch it to pshara, to get out of the swearing, even though they
already
seem to
chosen.
come to a verdict that someone so needs to swear, they're still allowed to switch that. Yeah.
Since he couldn't pursue them, like once the dispute started, he would chase them before the dispute for the peace.
I have Taisva says different. Taisva says, who are they quoting? I have Taisva says, here's Kivan Shaloi Hayadayim. Taisva says Aaron was not a judge. When Aaron, who was a judge, heard a dispute, he would pursue the quarreling parties before they came, so that he could make peace between them and compromise. Rashi, Taisvas. Kivan Shaloi Hayadayim. Din Balafana Balafnei Moshe. They're quoting Taisvus, not what Taisvus actually says. They have another commentary probably that's explaining Taisvus different. I don't know. Okay. Right? The way you see Taisvus, it's and then but then when the way they're translating it is not what it's actually saying. Okay. Whatever. I tell the students in yeshiva, I don't let them use art scrolls in yeshiva.
God.
Because I want them to practice their skills, the Gemara skills. So they're always sneaking, and this, they're under the desk they have an art scroll. But
That's a hard.
I said the only reason to use the art scroll is to see if the art scroll got it right. That's what we tell them. So you're supposed to be able to understand. Anyway. I let them use it out of Seder. If they want to learn another Masechta or whatever during the breaks.
But Bashar is considered better than Din. Is that correct?
We didn't see that yet.
Uh-huh.
So far, we saw the opposite. Now, let's wait for the next opinion. Rabbi Meir Reimer, did I just skip? Yeah, I skipped. Rabbi Eliezer Reimer. It says, Harisha Gazel Sa Shalchitim. Someone stole a saw and a measurement of wheat. Tachna. He ground it, buffa, he baked it. Ripshman challah. Separated challah. Certain challah you take only after you bake. Some you take before you bake. How could he say a bracha on this? It's all stolen. If he says a bracha, it would be a disgrace. Well, a robber, it could be translated also as a thief. A robber that blesses is a disgrace to Hashem. Meir says, Yehuda. Beitzea is referring to when Yehuda said, Ma betza kinar gesachina, last week's parsha. What gain? Betza means gain. Ma betza bedami. Like what gain would there be from me going down into the grave for Israel Shachas? Ma betza bedami. Shenemar, as it says, Yehuda said to his brothers, my betza kinar gesachino. What gain would there be if we kill our brother? Anyone that blesses Yehuda, raise him menayetz. That's a disgrace. Because Yehuda should have said, let's return him to our father. We're discussing over here, what does this pasuk mean? That Beitzea is a disgrace. We started off saying that it's a compromise in judgment. Then we went to someone that steals and wants to say a bracha on the food. And next thing is, it's talking about Yehuda. Rabbi Yeshua ben Karchaimer, mitzvah livtzaya, exactly the opposite. It's better to do compromise. So Rabbi Naftali is what you were mentioning. Yeah. He could have told the brothers, let's take him back to our father.
They would have listened.
Yeah. What is the Gemara? The Gemara is a Gemara about if Ruvain would have known that he would have been mentioned in the Torah like this, he would have taken him on his shoulders and carried him back to his father. Mitzvah livtzai, it's a mitzvah to do compromise. Shnemar emes mishpat shalom, truth and peaceful judgment. Shiftu b'sharechem. They will judge in your gates. Shiftu. They judged b'sharechem in your gates. Shiftu. No, they will judge. Yeah, shiftu. That's like an imperative. That's an imperative, right? Oh, when it comes to psukim. 1 second. If there's judgment, then there's no peace. There's no peace. It means that's not peace. Judgment is different than peace. And if there's peace, then it's not judgment. What type of judgment is also peace? This must be compromised. You say, look, you don't want it anyway. What do you do? Why do you have to do this? Yeah, I heard this Rav giving a speech. He was talking about how in-laws mix into the kids' things. So he said he got a call from some mother-in-law complaining. He said, "Look, you want to do your daughter a favor? You want to stay out of it." Yeah. So what's considered mishpat shalom? This is compromise. By David it says, David would do justice and charity. If it's mishpat, if it's justice, then it's not charity. It's tzedakah mishpat. Charity is not justice. You can't say, well, let's have the wealthy guy just give it to the poor for charity. What would be a judgment that would also have charity? This is referring to compromise. Usually we would do compromise if the verdict would not be in the best interest of the parties. If the verdict would be that these two enemies have to live in this house together as a because it belongs to both of them, so we would do some sort of compromise. We would switch that for compromise so that they should be able to function and other things. Also, the Tanna Kama, the following goes according to the Tanna Kama. The Tanna Kama said that it's which is Rebbe Elazar ben Eishel, Rabbi Yossi Glili, that we do not do compromise. It goes like this: Dana Sadin, the judgment was done. Zika Zakai. He said that the innocent is innocent. And he condemned the one that was guilty. Rosh and and he sees that the one who doesn't have money, the poor guy has to pay. He gives him from his own house. This is a judgment. The judge is giving the poor person money to pay. This is judgment and tzedakah. He did judgment for the person that's getting the money, and he gave tzedakah to the person that has to pay. And he returned his money. Now we have the Rashal takes this out, but it says David. That's what it says by David. Okay, Kashalei Rebbe. Rebbe has a question on this when it says tzedakah l'chalamai. Hi l'chalamai. Is this really to the whole nation? He didn't do tzedakah to the whole nation. If the guy was poor and he had to pay, so he did tzedakah for him. It says Ella Rebbe Yomer. Rather, Rebbe says even though he didn't pay to the person, but it's still mishpat and tzedakah. Why? Mishpat lezeh, it's judgment for the person that got the money back. It's tzedakah lezeh, and it's tzedakah for the other one. Mishpat lezeh shechsalim money. It's judgment for the person that received the money. Okay, he was supposed to get the money. It's tzedakah lezeh, and it's righteousness for this person. Because he was able to extract the stolen object from him. He doesn't want to have the stolen object. It's good for him to get it out of his house. Shimon ben Manasseh says, two people come to judgment. Actually, Tishma Devrayim, before you hear the words, or after you hear the words, but you have no clue which way this is headed. You could tell them, go and make a compromise. But once you know which way this is headed, you see who's winning. You can't tell them, go and make a compromise. As it says in the pasuk, the opening of the water is the beginning of the fight, beginning of the conflict. And before the conflict is revealed, is open, you could you could forsake it. Once it's before it's been revealed, you're allowed to abandon the case. Once it's been open, is that an extra word in there? You have twice yachal?
No.
Oh my gosh. I have twice yachal.
Size in your words.
You have
Yeah.
yachal. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild. Okay. I found the mistake even the rabbis couldn't catch. Okay. Let's finish this. Yeah? We have time?
Yeah, we just started.
Yeah, let's just do Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish Amar, Shtaim Shabal Ladin. Two people come to judgment. Echad Rach v'Echad Kasha. One of them is a soft person. One of them is a very strong person. Atzlei Tishma Devrayim. Before you hear the judgment, or even after you hear the judgment, you don't know which way it's headed. You could tell them, maybe the strong person is going to lose rather, and then he's going to chase me. But once you hear the case, you know which way it's headed. You can't tell them that I'm not listening to the case.
So before you can choose to take the case.
Yeah. But once you hear where it's headed, you can't get out of it because you're not allowed to be afraid. The judge is not allowed to be afraid from anyone. Yeah. Yeah. I would get calls about people threatening me with the case to this. So you're not allowed to threaten the judge. I tell you, I even got a call once from a rabbinical person. You're not allowed to do that. Anyway. No, but he didn't call me again. I one time got a call with someone was going to give me money.
He said, thank you very much.
This
Say, call my friend Yitzhak.
is totally not. You know that this is not allowed. You know you're not allowed to give a judge money. You know.
Give it to Yitzhak.
Okay. Rabbi Shua ben Karchaimer. Let's leave it over there. Rabbi Shua ben Karchaimer.
You want a bag man? Professor here will be a bag man. Escrow. You go to my escrow account.